Okay, it's Wednesday, September 20, 2023, and we're going to start the Town of Sangerville Select Board meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jody's not going to join us tonight. She let me know that she's just not going to make it back in time. So it's just Dale and I here tonight and a room full of guests and the town manager. Item 2, approval of minutes, select board meeting 9/6/2023.
Make a motion to approve A.
Second. Both of us vote in favor. Items 3, review of treasurer's warrants, payroll 77 and 79, and accounts payable 76, 78, and 80.
Make a motion to approve A and B is read.
Second, all in favor? Item 4 is it's a space that we normally have for open session, where people can speak if they want to. We've got quite a few people here, so I guess, who would like to speak? There you go.
I would like to speak. This is gonna take more than a few minutes, but you need to hear it. As you know, the ex-town manager's husband, and I guess they pissed around people a lot, but anyway. April 22nd, April 2022, Lorna's grandson passed away. During the time she was home grieving, the select board approached the deputy clerk to make accusations to get her terminated. Then 2 months later, got promoted to town manager with a $10,000 raise and a pat on the back for a job well done. And then, a couple weeks ago, took a $250 a week hit in her pay because of course the new town manager. There's somebody on the board that is dead set against the fire department, and I don't know why, but you better hope your house never catches on fire, because I think they're gonna muster at A.E. Robinson's, I really do. But getting on, we were on vacation this year in Laconia. Everybody knew where we were, and my wife's phone blew up like I had never heard before, over a frickin' dog floating in Center Pond. Guys, we're on vacation. You didn't need to blow a phone up. The same person that was blowing a phone up in the town of Sangerville was taking 2 homesteads, one on his camp and one on his house. I don't know if anybody's aware of that. Same guy that charges $500 to mow 1/8 of a mile that really charges $50 this year. Somebody else did it. Getting to the town office, I know it's falling on everybody's side, but the select board had Lorna call and have an inspection done, knowing it wouldn't pass, intentionally, to be condemned. So they would have to move, so they get a new building. And she did, and she called, and they came, and just like everybody expected, the building had to be vacant, couldn't get insurance on it. In 5 years, we've had 4 town managers. Lois did a great job, Bridie did a fantastic job, and I think my wife did a pretty good job too. So, she always looked out for the town. We were always patching roads, doing signs, weekends, never charged anybody for it. But I want you guys to know, Lorna's done today. She's not coming back. You'll get your keys. Good luck. Because in a couple of weeks, you got a few things due in a couple of weeks that nobody knows how to do. So, that's all I have. But I think
Can I say one thing? I'm Michelle Lord, and I live down on Mill Street, and I've lived down there since, 1982, off and on. Lorna has done a fantastic job.
And she has, she's looked out for the town.
Fantastic.
She looked out for the town.
And I know I'm not involved that much because sadly, I have to work a lot.
Yeah.
But just let her know that my husband and myself appreciate
Thank you.
everything that woman has done.
She was hired by another town as town manager,
Well,
so
I
they appreciate her.
I appreciate her.
I just think it's pretty shitty, the way it happened.
I don't know much about the town politics, and I
Oh, it's
apologize
rough.
for my ignorance, but I've lived here since I was 16 years old, and I just turned 60. So,
I've lived in this town all my life and I've never said a thing, and I don't say anything.
sadly. But I always say, like the song says, this is my town. And I love my town. And I always have this thing what I tell the neighborhood kids, pardon my language, don't shit in your own neighborhood. So,
I mean, they did away with the public works, they sold everything we had. I get it, 'cause
yeah,
we didn't have public works. However, you sold everything and you got taxes down for 3 years. They're back up again because we have nothing left to
Right.
sell.
right. And Bridie did a great job.
Bridie did a great job.
Yeah,
And Lorna appreciated everything Bridie did.
yeah. That's all I had to say, but I just wanted to say that, but please thank her on behalf of us.
Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Go ahead.
What was the reason she was let go?
Well, I should probably have jumped in front of you. With regard to a personnel matter, we really can't say anything. I can say, because it's on the record, Laura has been interim for many months now. This wasn't a new thing. She's been interim for, when did that start? Yeah, and she did that voluntarily. So, there's a lot that was said that I think a lot of people would
Just
debate
kinda-
with, but that's fine.
Kind of convenient, the one that really should be here isn't here, and that's very convenient. But anyway,
Anyway, that's, what I just said is on the record, that is easily demonstrated, so. Did anybody else wanna speak? Sure.
I'd like to have,
When you do speak, whoever you are, would you introduce yourself? 'Cause-
okay, I'm Brian Campbell, and I'd like to have you introduce the new town manager. I didn't even know that we had a new town manager.
I didn't either.
So I think it'd be nice to know.
Patrick
who he
Lewis is
where
our
he's
town
from.
manager.
Well, I'll do it. I'm Patrick Lewis.
You say Patrick Lewis?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Grew up half of my life Center Pond / Starbird Lane down there. My stepmother is Sharon Smith, and Dora Starbird's my elderly grandmother. The other half of me grew up on Mount Desert Island. We own a construction company, so I have a pretty decent construction background. Went to the Navy Seabees, served there for a couple of years, and then went to the Army. And I just medically retired out of the Army after 17 years. And then I saw a posting and applied to come home. I felt like, if I could give back to the community they gave to me, then my job of serving continued. Now, Kenny, I will tell you, your wife has been nothing but beautiful to me. She's been a great woman. She has treated me with nothing but respect. She has helped me every step of the way, and I will miss her greatly. It hurts my heart because I will miss her. She was awesome, and I want everybody in the room to know how good she was to me. I'm open for questions. I got a pretty extensive background from the military and construction. And if I have to get in the excavator, I don't mind it, I will. So, but I have an open door. I've enacted Wednesdays since the office is closed. Anybody wants to bring a cup of coffee and sit down and talk with me, I take mine black. We are doing some recreational, or Parks and Rec Committee. We're getting some road work done. I really am sad because I wanted her to be my left and right hand because she was that important to me.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Go right ahead.
Patty Davis, could you tell me how many applicants you did receive for this position?
2.
Were both of them local?
I don't remember the second one. We had already, the second one came in after we had made a commitment.
Yes.
So you didn't even interview the second one?
We had already made a commitment.
They made us down.
Yeah, Paul?
Paul Davis, anybody that doesn't know me. Did the second application come in after the applications were closed? Or did you not set a date for closing them?
We had already hired Patrick in the second
That's what I
application.
asked, sir. I asked if the second application.
We never closed our dates.
So you didn't post a date of closing?
No.
The day after,
Open-ended.
Correct.
the day after we hired Patrick, I went online to shut down the town's ad, and that's the same day that the application, that we became aware of the application.
That's two different answers.
No, I beg your pardon?
That seems like it's two different answers.
Well, I don't wanna say that I know what day it came in, because I don't have access. I know I received it. I know when I received it, but I don't know exactly when it arrived.
I do
Yes.
have one more question, Diana Bowley. When did you let go of Lorna, and when did you put the notice out?
Oh, like I can speak to when she became interim was several months ago. So we had a meeting in which she agreed to serve as interim town manager and acknowledged that we were now seeking a new town manager. And that's been known to her for months, and I would echo all the positive sentiments that everyone else has said. She was really helpful, even that period where she was interim, she was positive, and she knew that we were seeking applicants, there was no surprise, and she was great.
And she did apply,
No,
she didn't apply.
Best part was though, when they said, we're taking $250 a week from you, but you're training a new town manager. Well, if I'm good enough to train a town manager, I'm good enough to be a town manager.
yes,
My name's Chris Rowell. Seen this, obviously, we've been through at least half a dozen town managers since I've lived in this town. Every other vacancy, there was a search committee formed. Who was
No.
on?
No.
I didn't mean her up, but we hired Brady.
Yeah, you did, yep. But, so there was
Oh,
no search
and
committee?
Lois, we hired
formed?
Lois too.
Yeah.
There was no notification to the townsfolk that we were looking? I mean,
We ran ads.
I was under the impression Lorna was gonna be permanent. I think a lot of people in here were under that same.
Mr. Panio, Lois,
Yep.
Brady, Lorna, Patrick, the select board did all of
Well, you
those.
just said Lorna was interim.
She was interim, but she was hired by the select board without the committee. So it's been a decade or more since that process that you described existed.
Hasn't been that long.
Well, do you remember when Ken was fired?
I do.
Okay, that's approximately a decade ago.
Another one you shouldn't have fired.
I wasn't on the board then, but. Anybody else?
You got one
Right over
back.
here.
Nope, sorry, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Sam Eaton. My family's kind of new to the town. We only moved here about a year and a half ago, but the only thing I wanted to talk about is, I don't know if there's a motion we got put in play or what, but I'd really like to see the town meetings moved. I tried inviting a lot of people to this meeting tonight, and I got pretty much the same explanation that a lot of people work. So most of the surrounding towns, their meetings are all between like 6 and 7.
This turnout is the largest turnout we've ever had for town meeting. So it may have deterred a few people, but there's a lot of people there.
There.
There is.
But I, myself, because I know of, no exaggeration, 11 others that would be here if it wasn't for. not trying to argue, I'm just,
No, we just,
Yeah.
it's typically there's nobody.
yeah.
Because we record all of our meetings. We record all of our meetings.
But
So-
how do you have input on the recording?
Right.
Actually, input isn't part of the process. Our meetings, it would be like saying to the legislature, you shouldn't meet at noontime because we can't be there. They have work they have to do. But all that they talk about is available to you and they can't keep it a secret, and we don't do that either. We do, and we're not required, but we always provide 2 minutes of open session for people to speak, just like we have today. Normally there's nobody or one person, and then we go on about the town's business, and that's how it works. So. Do you want to speak again?
Yeah, Brian Campbell, you just said that, this is the largest turnout that you've had for these meetings. Maybe the reason for that is that they're at 4 o'clock and not when working people can come to this.
Right, I just think what this gentleman said is probably a fair assumption. There are people who think that back and forth is part of the process, and it's just not. So,
And we've done this. We had our meetings when I first got on the board, it was at 6:30. And we had no turnout.
and no,
That's
when
not
we
entirely true.
Many years,
I went to
no
many of
turnout.
those.
when we started, if you wanted to hear the recording of the meeting, when Dale and I started, you had to make a FOIA request to even listen to the meeting. We've since changed those rules. We record every single meeting, and everything we try to get it posted within 24 hours. So everybody, while they're eating breakfast, can catch up on exactly what's going on in town. And a lot of towns don't do that. So. Paul?
I guess I would like to see us move along. We can argue who was hired, who wasn't, who got fired, who didn't, and all that kind of thing. It's probably not gonna change much. My understanding of this meeting tonight was to discuss the town hall. And saying that, gentlemen, I served on the school board for a long time. We built a bus garage. We had a meeting every time to discuss it before the vote. When the hospital wanted to merge with Northern Light, I went to the Senate President and I got a bill through requiring every town to have a meeting to discuss it. Their plan was to discuss it in Dover, Foxcroft, and a couple of area towns. They had to have a meeting in every town to discuss the issue. And they won every town, except one. And the bus drivers, they won every town. And on and on and on. I'm going to urge you guys, turn this over to the town, let the town decide what they want to do with this building, and be done with it. That is my opinion. If the town doesn't want to keep the building, they want to demolish it, then that's up to the townspeople. It is not. It's up to you guys. You guys, I don't want to be condescending here, but I know what it is to be in public service. You work for the public. You don't work for yourself.
Right.
You work for us. And I get to say, and I will say it publicly, and I don't often try to be critical because I know what public service is. I think this has been handled very, very poorly for a long time. A committee should have been formed, people should have looked into this and made decisions and brought it back to the town. None of that has happened. None of it.
The building still
Just a
belongs
minute,
to the
sir. I'm
town.
speaking, I have the floor. I've done meetings before, I have the floor, you don't.
For 2 minutes.
I'll speak as long as I want.
Well,
Well, know all about it. I don't have to do this. You have had the charge of it. There's all kinds of stories going around. You're given the appearance, which I don't believe, but you're given the appearance that things are being done in secret, that you're trying to hide stuff, and on and on. Be upfront, be transparent. Come on, you can do this, there's no reason why you can't.
These two items have been on our agenda
I know
for 2
that.
years. We talk about it every meeting, right here.
When have you gone to the town?
We haven't got anything to bring to the town yet.
Whose fault is that?
That's what we're trying to do. That's why we're doing this.
Okay, I've said my piece.
Well, it's easy for a person to leave with the impression that we've somehow sold the building, or we've decided to tear it down. None of that's true, but I've had people come to me, I've had people call me at my home. I've had people send letters saying that the select board has decided to sell the building. That's just not true. We don't have the authority to do that. We don't have the authority to do anything to that building without going to the town.
Well, then you should get ready and go to the town.
And we are working on that, but to give people the impression that we've done anything with that building is just not accurate.
You are given the impression, not the townspeople.
So can I,
No, just a minute, sir. You are the ones that are in charge, you're the ones that set the agenda, you're the ones that should form a committee, you're the ones that should get this ball rolling.
We've had this town meeting featured in the town report for half of the last 3 years.
You had a meeting after the town meeting to discuss it. That's what you did.
Well, that's not accurate, but that's fine.
It needs to get off the ball, it needs to get rolling.
That's
and-
what
and get it-
that's the point of tonight's meeting.
Whether we keep it or destroy it or whatever happens.
so what, go ahead.
Okay, we have heard, and you can just, tell us it isn't so. We have heard that the building has been condemned and it isn't safe for anyone to go into. But we have been told by a reliable source that a person had been allowed to go into the building and inspect it, and they are willing to give $20,000, and they're going to make 8 apartments in a building that is on the National Register. Is that true?
Well, first of all, it technically wasn't condemned. We lost our liability insurance, so we weren't allowed to use it for town functions. We do have an offer from a person who would like to buy it, and his intention is to put apartments in it. But that isn't anything that we can agree to. We'd have to bring that to the town.
Isn't anything you can accept?
Wait,
But I
hold
just
on,
said-
give me a couple minutes, and we will see that there's some traction to this, because I'm hearing what everybody's saying, and this is what I've been doing, okay? So, I am putting together some information, an informational brief, so we can have a workshop scheduled so everybody can come. I can brief everybody on what I have found, and it's not one thing, it's not a pigeonhole, okay? So I talked to Senator Collins' office this morning about maybe congressionally directed funds for either fixing the building, right? That's one option, okay? Or, because it is a historically registered building. And then I talked about, money for the new building. Then the other things that I have been putting together, one of them, yes, it is, the sale of. But I've also gone and talked to a real estate agent about, what would commercial sale look like? I got a hold of Giles, ironically, Kenny's wearing the shirt.
Ironically, I run the place.
So I did reach out to them yesterday about, what does this look like to fix this? And here's the report that we got from the inspection, and putting, together what a project to fix this would be, Is there such a thing as volunteers doing some of the labor work that we need to do? So I'm putting all of these things together, or, as Mrs. Bowley and I talked one day, does a nonprofit take it? Do we make it a community center? So I'm putting all of these options together so we can have a working group next month, and we can all discuss what options work, because it's my job not to make the decision, it's my job to give you the information. That's where I'm at, and that's what I'm doing right now, is putting all of this stuff together so that everybody can come to the table and decide on their own what is the best in their opinion as a voter. That's what I owe everybody in intent. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm not driving one course of action, I'm not driving any. I'm just giving you information on a piece of paper so you can decide.
Patty asked a question that wasn't answered, which I find rather shocking, that And you didn't say yes or no. Did you allow somebody to go in the building when we don't have insurance on it?
He signed a waiver, and he was able to inspect the building for, same thing as a
We
real
have
estate
liability
agent.
on it now.
Yeah, what? Excuse me?
If we're not using it as a town building, they kept the liability waiver.
So if
The
a
liability.
shingle falls off that
So
roof,
we maintain a liability waiver if somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, if the building falls down on a fireman or a fire truck coming around here.
They allowed us to keep that even though the building is considered
for now.
unsafe?
Yep, because nobody's working in it.
Yes, sir.
Did, was there an appraisal done on that building? If you had a real estate agent talk to it, was there an appraisal done on that building at all?
So she did a comp, you know, on, she didn't do the appraisal, I did not get one done.
Okay,
But she did do a compilation of other buildings in the market and what they would be evaluated at, for a commercial sale,
and what was that number?
276,000. And I have it, it's open,
And what was the offer for the building prior to this, for eight apartment building? How much was the offer?
The only offer we've received is for $20,000.
Okay, thank you.
But that, and any offers we receive, whether they're for $1 or $100,000, we just have to convey those back to the town, that's how that works. Yep.
Yeah, we didn't solicit an offer, that's what came to us.
I understand.
Yes.
You told the Historical Society at a public meeting that you would establish a committee to look into this. No committee, like Paul Davis said, no committee was formed. I think it would do a lot for this community if you had a committee, like there was years ago, to look into this.
The last time that we talked about committee was before the insurance company kicked us out of there, and before the library closed. Now that those two things have happened, at least from a standpoint of running the town, we've demonstrated with this, the old post office, looks like we can get away with about 800 square feet. So the question is, I guess linking the two, the town office, we know we need a town office. If he decides to sell that building in 6 months, I have no idea where we would be in Sangerville to do the town's business. We probably would end up having to go to a neighboring town. So we're addressing that problem. The building is a separate issue, and all of the vetting that Patrick's done and Lorna's worked on and Bridie worked on it, it's a process, but nobody's hidden anything, nobody's made any decisions. We do have some plans, some architectural plans that we've worked on for a portion of the Public Works building as an alternative as to how we would run the town office, or where we would run it, what it would look like. But they're two very separate issues.
well, so, ma'am, I hear what you're saying. And I'll propose if we wanted me to host and, you know, a project committee on this, that's my job. And if we want, you know, a voice, and we want, you know, to select, you know, the Historical Society, your name came up obviously today at the phone call I had, but those, and I understand what everybody's saying, so yes, I see what we need, I need to host a think tank and a problem solution. You know, we have a problem statement, so now what is the intent, what is the vision, and how do we get to the end of the problem statement?
I would encourage you to do that.
And then
I think that's getting the ball rolling.
and then I can take the things that I've already accumulated and done some numbers and analysis and analytics on, and then apply it to the voice in town. And they can't be all the same voice, we gotta have different opinions and different voices from different segments, because we're never gonna get to the table to have a conversation if we don't.
Chris again, and the committee was discussed in our annual town meeting, and I believe by the same lady that's mentioning it today, that we needed a committee to deal with the building, to figure out what we were gonna do with it.
Well,
So,
I apologize,
saying it hasn't been discussed for a
unfortunately.
couple of years, Mr. Warwick, was not an accurate statement.
Actually,
Yes, it has
I'll have the minutes, I can share them with you. I'm fine with that.
That is way before my time.
No,
What I'm
it's
saying,
not before his time though, so.
No, this was before we lost our insurance, but anybody can form a committee anytime they want to, we'll bless that, that's fine. It's not, they're not at odds with each other. It's perfectly
No,
fine.
but it seems
Any
very
group of
much
people
like
that
the
wants
select
to.
board is at odds with the people of the
Well, the
town.
only thing is that I'm gonna say is, if you look back at history, we had a committee when we spent roughly, how much money we spent 20 years ago over there?
$500,000.
$500,000 on a building.
That building.
That building right there. And the committee made decisions against the engineers to fix the building, and that's why we are here today. If we would've spent that money 20 years ago and listened to the engineers instead of the committee, we may not be in the same position we're in now.
What Dale's referring to, that group of people on their own changed the architectural design of that foundation. We paid Carpenter tens of thousands of dollars for a plan, and our local expert said, we don't need pilasters, we don't need to do it that way. We spent $500,000 in 1990 money, which is probably close to $2 million today, and we ended up with a mess. So that doesn't mean it's always gonna work out that way, but that is what happened.
That's why we are where we are.
well, so I'll host the committee, okay? And then, like I said, we'll do what I have, but then we need to do program objectives and milestones, so that we can set milestones on what, what we need to do. Talking to Senator Collins' office today, any monies that we're gonna be able to request, the due date is gonna be FY '24, March of, so, let's do the program's objectives and milestones on things that we need to do, and then we can go forward. I can't go backwards and I can't fix backwards, but what I can do is work with everybody to go forward. I mean, we all have gripes, but we just gotta start with the solutions, and the only way to do the solutions is like Ms. Bowley just said, let's have a committee.
Has there been like a general census taken of the town of what the town agrees to? I mean, what is the general consensus of what the town people want? Do we have any idea? I mean, I get the feeling like they kinda wanna save it, but they don't. I mean, it must be saved, but it must be done in a practical manner, I would assume. Or is there any general consensus?
My experience is,
Can we send out a flyer, maybe like a yes or no, and just a questionnaire or something?
So what, you wanna do a survey?
Yeah.
Or do you wanna do a holistic climate survey? So it doesn't have just that on there, it has a,
Well, I don't care, I mean, whatever,
well, I mean,
Start
if
to start.
you're gonna go after one thing, you might as well go after the climate in itself, so you can get an azimuth of what the town feels.
No, sure.
The survey is nothing more than the way the wind's blowing at any time. You need to come up with a plan,
Yeah.
present it to the town, the alternatives to staying there, what it costs to stay there, all that type of thing, and let the town vote on it, let the town make the decision. Surveys are fine. George Bush had a 90% approval rate and he lost the election. That's how good surveys are.
Then could we have a notification sent to the citizens to when that vote's gonna be, instead of having it decided by 20, 30 people that may show up?
Yeah, so
that?
the vote can't happen until after the workshops and after the committees have done their due diligence and met certain milestones to be able to say, and I say milestones, but I mean, getting a number from Giles on what it might take,
Yeah.
working with SW Cole on certain other things. There's other ways to go about it, and that's what I've been trying to siphon through, is getting different answers to different options. I'm not making any decision, I can guarantee you that.
okay.
We had a meeting after the annual meeting for anyone that was interested in what was going to be taking place with the town hall, if my memory is correct. And the selectmen pitched having the garage, the equipment garage fixed. You had it all laid out and everything, and you got a big pushback from the people that stayed for that meeting, because we felt that you were shoving it down our throat. Now,
We're just looking for an alternative, that's it.
But this was the only alternative that you gave us.
But-
And we felt that you had already made up your mind and this was the way it was gonna be and we didn't have any input in it.
But ma'am, that's what, before me,
I understand that.
so now all I can do is go
I
forward.
understand that, but this is why the people are upset about it.
I get it.
People don't wanna be appeased, and I am one of them. I don't wanna be appeased.
Doesn't work very good with
The
that.
little cat on the head is the way it's gonna be. This was the only thing that was pitched,
It's a dead end.
Yeah, and that's, honestly, that's the only thing that we're working on.
that you're working on.
Right. I mean, we haven't, we know the numbers that it would take to bring that building back are in the millions, and we haven't pushed that forward.
There's all kinds of federal grants out there. There's all kinds of grant writers.
And we haven't found anyone, any group that was interested in pursuing them. Patrick may be some help there.
I know a lady that would do it.
Well, so again, I called today and spoke with Colin's office about options, grants, federal funds going
Especially
forward.
where it is a historical building.
Right.
Especially we're in the
You
bikini.
put together a plan, you and I'll get down and see it. We'll go to Washington and see it. I'm more than willing to.
She can come to Bangor.
And she can come to.
You know, as a retired major, I try to avoid all things in Washington DC.
You go to Cold Street and meet her in camp.
You gotta get it done.
Yep. And so the only way to do it is,
They're building fire stations and libraries and everything else all over the place.
Federal money.
It's all borrowed money, so it's gotta be done. One way or the other.
so I'll
Either
host
fix
a
it
board.
or-
That's fine. That's enough.
So it's on.
You don't need our permission even.
Yeah, I'll host the board and whoever is gonna stay behind, we'll have a time, place, and we'll allocate what's going forward for the new and old and the fixes and options and deal.
I have one last question. Yeah, when we had the town meeting, we discussed having a part of the town garage converted into the town office. And I recall that being a pretty steep amount of money, if I recall. 400,000 or something like that. Would it be just better to get maybe like a modular building and put it behind the town garage for, 80,000 bucks and put it behind there?
That's
not
not, we actually,
All
yeah,
right, but they're
no.
not 400, but they're not 400, but they're not 400,000.
Oh, they're close. Yeah,
For a modular?
yeah, we tried
You
that.
said 800 square feet, correct?
Well, that's what we're currently.
We want to build enough space for, remember how big the community room was in the old theater? That, we
Okay.
at least wanted space big enough for that. So that's probably gonna push us to 1,200 or so. What was the option one plan, how many square feet is that?
1,600 and
Okay.
17.
We actually have a two-phase or two-option plan. One would be what we just described, your normal everyday business, a community room. And then another option two would be a room that's actually large enough to hold your annual town meeting. And so if the town wanted to spend, it would be roughly twice, so that you could have an annual meeting room, that, we were vetting that option as well. So that's a process that we've been working on. Takes forever to get plans back, they're back now, and Patrick's and the ladies have been kind of working on the layout, but.
Have you looked into a pre-constructed building though of any sorts? Have you looked at that plan at all?
It's well over 200,000.
It's better than 4.
That's for the building.
Another 200 for site work.
But this is all stuff.
We
we've
looked
got-
at Robinson's too, by the way.
But then you have a town garage, it's still optional to be a town garage in the future.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying.
This plan wouldn't
So you
eat
have
the
two
whole town
buildings instead of
garage.
one. You still have more equity in the town if you have another building. So
Well,
you
no,
keep saying
actually,
like, put $400,000
I don't think
into
you
one
can
building.
if you look at it, because that's considered a shoreline zone in there. So you,
Well, it doesn't have to be on the town
You
garage,
can
it
only
can be up
build
towards
in
the
the
ball
footprint.
field for all I care. I don't care where it is. Take your right.
There, and it's funny you mentioned, there were a lot of people who were really strongly opposed to being on the ball field. So that
I understand that, I
happened.
get it, 'cause it's got a little bit out of the way, I understand.
No, but
So
that,
I understand, but I mean, there must be something else as well.
Yeah.
Just an option, guys, that's all, just
No,
throwing
we're
it out
just-
there.
So you volunteer to be on the board?
That's why you need a committee.
Whatever you wanna do, I don't care.
But again, that's why we record our meetings, because everything you're saying, yes, we've done that.
All that's been bounced around.
It's all in the folder with all the information for Patrick to work on.
Excellent.
Let us know when the meeting is.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you all. Well, we kinda covered town hall.
You got anything
item
else to add?
5.
Other than if anybody in the room wants to stay behind and discuss time, to be a part of the committee, to look at the new options and fixes or old options or any of that, or think tank for this project, just stay behind, and so we can lock something in stone with time, dates, and battle rooms.
This has to be accomplished by March, you said?
That's when FY 25 funds will be
Funds
committed.
available.
Yeah. So by March of 24, we've got to have voted and
This will be an earmark thing for Senator Collins to do.
I was told is interesting.
So as I said, they're spending $4 million in patent for the library. I don't know how much they're spending in Currituck for new fire stations. Building new in Greenville, all over the place.
Southwest got 2.7 million for
Bradford.
work.
Bradford, yeah.
So I think,
It's all borrowed money, it's all earmarks. My opinion.
Good part about borrowed money, you gotta pay it back. There's a lot of taxpayers that are struggling to pay the taxes now.
Very true, and that needs to be a consideration.
Yep.
What we do.
Okay.
so we already took care of the planning board stuff.
Okay, good.
I talked to Lance.
Okay.
He's here.
I didn't mean to be too hard on you.
Oh, I've seen worse.
Nice to meet you, sir. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
I've seen him worse. Why don't we take a recess for a minute?
I'll second. We're gonna take a quick break.
Yeah, let it really calm down. Clear up.
It's 4:45, and make a motion to come back into session.
Second.
All right.
Gonna skip A.
We can skip all of those because we took care of all of those in item 5.
Okay.
7?
So, fire department with the SOPs, first, Matt and I met with Dexter, Dover, and Guilford last night, town managers and fire chiefs, and discussed the mutual aid agreements. We had a great meeting with them. They are working on, the chiefs and the town managers are working on mutual aid agreement. Even though it is legislature, it's law that, we support. We talked about other options with mutual aid agreements in pay to play. So we had a lengthy meeting about the whole thing, and they're gonna tailor their letters of support for mutual aid to us to discuss and identify, we're here for you, you're here for us. The town managers, all of them indicated that there would not be any ability for us to call on to them if we ever needed to pay for the fire department. So they're not, the town managers will not support, if we don't have a fire department, they're not gonna entertain us paying them to be our call.
So, in other words, they wouldn't let us do what Abbott does,
No.
or Parkman does,
No,
or Ripley does.
no,
Their words are that they're all too stretched.
it stretches them out. So, we're gonna meet again and discuss more stuff and go more in depth. So that's where we're at with the fire department and the mutual aid SOP. The other SOP is the billing outside non-residents for incidents and accidents. I got Jack Kluge's from Dover, and theirs is very cut and dry. You know, if it's an out-of-state resident, such as the asphalt truck that went off the road, and we just bill the insurance company for response. And they've done it and it works. Guilford does it and it works. So we can recoup some of the funds, and it's been tested, Dexter does it. So we can recoup some funds, so when we send out the fire department, with an SOP like they have, and they've been more than willing to help us out and tailor that and support the brethren, so.
So, is this money gonna be pooled? If all these, if Dover's billing, if Guilford's billing, does it all go into a pool and we share in that?
You bill for your own town.
Yeah, no, like, so they responded at that Bean Hill accident, and we were the only one that, so Matt would be billing them to recoup funds for responding to that accident. It wouldn't go to Dover or anybody.
But if we're mutual aid, if we're responding because Dover goes to a
This has
call.
absolutely nothing to do with
No,
mutual aid.
no,
This is-
No, it does, that's why we're asking. If
This-
you're responding to a mutual aid call and it's an out-of-state person, are we gonna bill for our services, or is Dover gonna bill because Sangerville is there?
We don't run mutual aid to accidents unless it's like, I
But
mean,
you-
if it was a huge tanker
Sure.
and they called us for help and we called them, then we could individually bill our own time to the same insurance company. But it's not a pool or anything like that.
And so back to the assets that are being brought in by the towns that take care of towns without fire departments. And they're saying they won't take on any more because they're spread too thin. And they're spread too thin with our help. And we're responding to most all of their calls. Are they gonna pool those assets? Are they willing to consider the money that Abbott's paying them, sharing that with Sangerville, because Sangerville's going on those Abbott calls?
So that was part of the discussion, and then.
No, I wanna get the fire
Nobody's
department's money.
against the fire department.
So what I had Matt do was, the team put together how many man hours or work hours we had against calls to Atkinson, Parkman, and, what was it, Abbott, right? Atkinson was a total of $710 in man hour, right? So the total alone for the whole year of 2023 in mutual aid response and work hours was less than $2,000. We bill commercial vehicle accident and their insurance company at $4,000. We've already recouped mutual aid.
And we keep a good working relationship with the mutual aid that we need.
Yeah, I guess that's, we know 60+% of our calls are mutual aid calls. It just makes sense because
They're
we're
absolutely.
surrounded by towns.
Absolutely not.
Well, no, it's on the bottom of our
It's on-
sheet.
yeah,
every
all
week.
last year.
I just did the numbers, it's 22%.
So you're saying that our last year, when
I'm
we
telling you,
reported this
whatever
all
that
year,
says is incorrect.
Lorna was wrong?
I don't know what you're looking at, but I just
Do
did
you
all the
have it?
numbers for the last 3
I
years.
got it at the office.
And it
I don't
averages
have it on here.
22 to 30% for the last 3 years.
I don't have it in here this.
that's not what, it's right on every agenda, it's always been on
Yeah,
the
they're all
bottom.
online, I'll look at
Then
one
you may
tomorrow.
not be getting the right numbers, cause I went through the last 3 years and
I had
the
him rerun the
highest was
numbers.
30, the lowest was about 22%.
Yeah, I had him rerun the numbers again after
It's
the last
really,
meeting.
it's nowhere near what
What-
you guys are reading on this paper.
But those numbers were given to us by,
The
I'm
former
just-
chief.
yeah.
I'm just telling you that it's not correct.
Okay.
What you're saying is.
Okay, well, we
Well,
need to
no,
understand.
we didn't,
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't.
And that's what Matt and I are doing.
The only numbers we have is what's given to us.
Is I wanted to give you an update on where we're at and what we've been doing. And so the other thing is Matt and I owe is that definitive number, and we need to crunch, is it $2,000 in mutual aid, and that's all we're, to those other towns. Now, we have the agreement with Dover and Guilford of mutual aid, right? But they don't charge us when we come, and we don't charge them. That's the mutual aid agreement. The other thing is those ones that pay to play, as I say, the Abbotts and stuff, the money that we're contributing to that response is minuscule compared to what we can recoup from a DUI one DUI would pay for the whole thing. So we have, we have a solution to some of the issue.
The ordinance in no way would be billed to anybody in town or anybody, a personnel traveling through town in a neighboring community. This is targeted to large corporations, trucking, log trucks.
Out of state.
This asphalt trucks out of Massachusetts, they pay no taxes here, traveling through to make money. They go off the road and we have $5,000 worth of billable time out there. That's one way to get more than what we're worried about back.
And DUIs, Matt, you said there was 6, and each first responder entity can bill $2,500. So, you know, yes, I need to do more black and white work on writing that when we write that policy also, but that's a whole nother chunk of money that, you know, could go back to the fire department to recoup and do the life cycle of equipment that Matt needs fixed.
I still have a concern how we can write something that says you can bill this out-of-state thing or this out-of-state thing, but you can't bill this out-of-state or this out-of-state or this out-of-state.
It isn't written that way, it's written as you can bill it and you use your discretion. You're not gonna
Yeah.
send a bill to Betty from Dover.
Yeah, if you're a taxpayer of Piscataquis County, or even a resident of the state of Maine, that's not the intent. The intent is for the large corporations such as the asphalt, or high dollar accidents or incidents, you know? How many fifth wheels come through here? Campers. Somebody's gonna go off the road, and if that's a high dollar amount, and they, you know, are from out of state.
I have a question. Am I allowed to ask questions at this point?
Sure.
Or a suggestion perhaps? When this policy is written up, I think it would be intelligent to put in that policy that any of this money that is recovered in this fashion goes to the fire department. It does not go to the town general fund. It does not go to any of the town accounts other than fire department use.
So
That can't be used to levy against the next budget either.
Correct.
So that's how, because Jack Kluge's been helping me with this part of the policy end of things, right? Obviously Matt is the SME on other things. So the way they have it is in their ordinance, it's billed from the fire department, goes to the insurance company, and it comes back with the fire department on the check.
I get
So
all
then,
that.
then the ordinance says that it goes back to the fire department for equipment purposes. For the life cycle of
And as
equipment.
Chris says, that is not held against the fire department in the next budget cycle. Because I can see that happening the way that this is structured right now.
Seen it happen.
Oh, I can see it happening. Sure. You know, you end up with a large chunk of money there, and then through the budget process,
Yeah, you take
You
the
know.
money for something else for a pet project.
Forest fire in 2022 on Smash Lake, county sent money to each town that responded. We didn't see that in our fund.
Went into the town's general.
Yep,
It went into the town's general fund, it didn't go back
just
to
like
the
any
fire
other
department.
donation that comes into the town. You know,
And that's why I'm saying this, if you write this policy up, it needs to go to the fire department as intended, not the selectmen taking it from a back.
see, that's where you and I will disagree forever, because to me, that should go in the general fund. It's a line item, that can be recorded, and then through the budget process, or the townspeople can decide where that money goes.
The townspeople, I would agree.
The
what
townspeople,
happens.
that's what happens. We can't spend any money. The townspeople has to do that.
We can't spend one penny.
None.
We can't even take donations.
Yeah.
If you wanted to write us a,
He just said that a donation comes from the town.
correct,
Goes to
but
the
we
general
can't
fund.
take it.
But we
We have
can't
to get
spend
your
it.
permission.
Correct.
If you wanted to write a check right now to the fire department for $5,000, we would have to wait until next town meeting to accept your check. That's how it works.
If you want to donate a check
So
for,
there was no vote on the money that was sent from the county?
So the ordinance.
it wasn't designated for anything, an undesignated fund.
It was
can
designated.
We can take undesignated as a town,
So the ordinance.
but we can't, I mean.
That
town
Dover
pays.
has, right, the ordinance Dover has, says any monies billed to an insurance company for a response Yes. is paid to the fire department. It's already appropriated by the vote and established by that ordinance. It definitely needs to.
So
So it can be pre-decisional and it can be voted on as long as that ordinance is standing and it is re-upped every 12 months, then it can be continued, that money can go in. It doesn't have to be appropriated from anybody else, cause the ordinance is a standing ordinance, it says.
Still can't spend it.
So how does that bear on the boot drive money then?
That's a different issue.
Could you explain? Yeah, could you elaborate then?
Because that was a non-profit, that wasn't, when we did that as, typically, when you guys have done that, you do it as the Friends of. This time, you guys didn't do that as the Friends of, you did it at the town, the Sangerville Fire
We
Department.
did it as the friends of and made a mistake of bringing the fire truck.
Nope, you posted on Facebook and shared your chief's number as Sangerville Fire Department doing it. Not the Friends of.
It may have been posted on,
That's what I'm saying.
but it was in no way intended to be that way, is what I'm saying.
So did you vote on that money that was raised to put it back in this fund, or?
No, it's the town's money. The town has the money.
Well, if that's a donation for the fire department, didn't that need to be voted on?
Actually,
That's what you
those
just
are,
said before.
those are individual dollar bills. It's hard to say
It's
what,
all donations for the
Yeah,
fire
they
department,
were.
though, correct?
So
yeah, no, well, we got
So-
tens of thousands worth of equipment given to us too. And that's all came in and the town accepted it.
Right.
So,
So the money's gone, is what I'm hearing.
No, it's in the general fund, it's not gone, hasn't
The
gone
money we
anywhere.
raised to help improve the fire department.
is there to help improve the fire department.
So
It's still
that's
there.
coming back to the budget next year then.
That'll be a conversation
Supplemental,
at the
not-
budget committee, as Matt knows, when we talked about it.
So it'll be supplemental, not.
That's up to the townspeople to decide.
What the town needs to run the fire department, the town is gonna vote to do.
Right,
And that hasn't changed at all.
right.
It's like that with the roads we pave and all of it.
Same way with your idea, they put it into an account, that's great. Nobody can spend it until it goes back to the next town meeting as a line item for the townspeople to decide. No different if you put it in, you're back into the cookie jar theory, really.
Well,
You can put it in all kinds of cookie jars, but at the end of the day, doesn't matter what you call it, it ain't gonna get spent until it goes to the town.
But by recouping it, putting in a life cycle of equipment line of accounting, at the end of that, at the next year, we can say, this money has been tagged for life cycle of equipment. It's already been paid to that account. No, we can't touch it over the year, but at the end of that year, or at that next meeting, we can earmark it for upgrades.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
the townspeople
absolutely.
can decide they wanna use it for something else.
Right.
That's what I'm trying
So
to say.
it's not necessarily, if we do it the way Jack has been helping me, and Matt's been working on it, it helps the life cycle of equipment. Are we paying for work hours and recouping work hours? Yes, but also we're charging for trucks, and we're charging for stuff. So we recoup that, it goes back, it doesn't pay for any wages, but it does pay for, the life cycle of vehicles. And it also, I understand all of that. but then. I was on fire department, Yeah. different towns. So then, if we just wait until the next meeting and Matt says, hey, I need to spend some money, can I pull it out of this, then that's solved. But I get what the general fund question is.
Well, historically, that's what the case. Money goes to the general fund, it doesn't come back out to what it isn't, or intended to be for. That's, anybody care to object to
I can't
that?
disagree with that.
Well, it's gone to where the townspeople of Sangerville at the town meeting voted for it to go.
At the town meeting, nobody in that meeting knew that there was a check from the county directed toward the fire
Right.
department.
It was
That was
not
not a
made
line
public
item,
knowledge.
that went to the general fund and you hit it. You
I
didn't
didn't
tell anyone.
If you would like to go through all of our meetings, I can tell you right now, I don't know anything about it.
Well, maybe
I don't-
you
what
did
year
find
was
it, but
this?
you didn't try to get it out to the
22.
public to know.
Is there a
We
particular
got a
reason?
check from the county for a fire in
Every fire
22?
department that responded to that.
Not a
got
single
check from the
person from the
county.
fire
I
department
was the one that
notified
answered
us
the
or the town
questions
manager.
for the county of who was there, how many people, how many hours, how many trucks, what trucks.
How big was
So that
it?
they could send us a check.
How big was it?
It was on, one of the islands. We were all.
No, how big was the check?
I don't know. I didn't do a calculation, I just asked.
We never heard about it.
I answered.
Are you
And I
sure
know
we
other
got it?
Departments got it.
Are you sure we got it?
I know other departments got it. And
Okay.
we never heard anything about
Okay,
it.
so
No, I never-
Patrick is
nor
gonna
did I.
check, because
We
We
But
don't know
how
about
can we check anything? Because instead of having a number.
It's all in
on
There'll be
your
a record of
sheet-
the check.
of course you have a record of it.
Right, but how can we, instead of writing, oh, we expended $2,800 on payroll this week, where you write down number 77. We
That's
don't
not how-
know what your, even what your line item is or what was spent. You
No, you're
give
talking
us
about,
the transaction number and
you're
that's.
talking about funds that came in last year possibly, right? From the
Either way-
county.
Either way,
Right.
it's not disclosed.
They're still there. That money's still there.
It's all in the system.
If he can find a check from the source that you've cited, we'll be able to confirm how big it was.
Yeah, I
But
can look at revenues.
we never
and-
knew that
and
such a thing happened.
Right.
I hope it's huge.
I can look at accounts payables and revenues for the last, beyond 3 years, so.
The check's
No,
there.
you can, absolutely, you can. Nobody else in this room can.
Nor can I.
So how do you expect your townsfolk to know about what's coming in
Well,
now?
that's why
the
we
role
hire
of
him
the
to run the town.
manager.
Okay,
Right,
so what about the other town managers before him?
Well, actually, the previous town manager got the check. If Chris is right and it came in, that's what happened.
Correct.
That's the issue we keep going back to, is the public doesn't truly know what's going on. You're not hiding anything, but you're not making it,
There's no way to share with everybody every single check that comes to the town of
well,
Sangerville.
I'm not saying that necessarily.
I mean, this
but-
one, Dale, we don't even know about it. So,
This is what I'm talking about, payroll, number 77, number 79. We don't know. what
those
the
are coming out of
numbers are
funds
for.
that the town allocated last town meeting.
Accounts payable, number 76, number 78, number 80, there's no dollar
You
amount
can ask
assigned.
for a FOIA request at any time you would like for any information
And
you
you
would
can
like to
charge me
have.
any amount you would like for that request.
Actually, we
I'm familiar with that.
Okay. So you have your answer, Chris.
I know I can go to other towns and look at their minutes and see actual dollar amounts.
I've looked at other towns' minutes and saw, yep, we sat down, yep, we voted, done. I'll guarantee you there's more in our minutes than most other towns around, that I've seen anyway. And everything is recorded, which nobody else does.
So,
Now, plenty other towns do that.
one sec, Chris. So,
Dover doesn't do it, a private citizen is doing it and posting them.
look, just to
The
play
town's
devil's
not doing it.
advocate here, how hard is it gonna really be for us to add that to the paper?
It used to be on the paper.
One sec, Chris. How hard is that to be requested for that just to be added to the paper?
For what?
Knowledge, we'll call it.
You wanna know what,
You want everything itemized?
what these paychecks
No,
are.
that's not what I'm asking.
No, it is, that's what Chris
All I'm
is.
asking, because what it sounds like Chris is asking is that we're putting item number 77 as the topic of discussion. That's not what item 77 is.
So
Not
what,
every-
what you're wanting on the agenda,
It's what it
Would
says,
be- would be-
payroll is 77, 79, so that's payroll for the last 2 weeks.
you want a budget brief during this meeting, I guess, is that, I mean.
Or
'cause
maybe you could produce one quarterly. or-
This is just the public works and roads, right? So I started crunching numbers for public works and roads. You can come right up here and look and see what has been spent. I mean, I even have further on who we cut check to and where it went.
Could you
right?
post those online?
I can do whatever anybody wants.
How would you like that?
But
Every transaction.
It's not me asking.
Although I thought you just did.
You're the one talking.
You just did.
I just said I'm playing devil's advocate.
Well, and how do you like that response? Is that fair? If we put every transaction online, would that be helpful?
So what I have,
don't think that's what Chris was asking.
Well, wouldn't that be helpful though?
what I have is.
What I'm saying is having it numbered like that instead of having actual dollar amounts makes it very much look like stuff's being hidden.
No, it doesn't.
It does to me.
These are all
And it does
allocated
to many
funds.
others.
Well, you're the first to say that we're hiding something because we're approving 2 weeks of
I didn't
payroll.
say you were hiding anything. I
You
said
says has the
makes it look
appearance.
like it is.
Correct. Well,
We can do quarterly.
I don't see
budget brief.
I don't see the point
I can-
myself in wasting our town manager's time. It's right here.
It's
If
easy.
there's nothing there, it's a number, that's it. Number 77, number 79, that's it.
It's
I
all-
would, I'd put the whole
Put the whole
spreadsheet
thing right up
up
there.
every
There's a lack of
quarter.
accountability,
No, there's not.
That's not
So,
true.
so Chris,
lack of transparency.
No, there's
Sorry,
not.
it's the wrong word.
so,
Starting tomorrow.
You'll have the whole thing. Be right on line.
nah, come on now. So, 77, right, payroll. You'd like to just see what the tally is for that warrant, right? So, what I can do is just beside the number that's on there, just put the tally of the warrant that's on there.
Correct.
You're saying,
Transparency.
That's not transparency, Chris.
payroll warrant 77 that's on that agenda. I just put a little dash and I just, here's the total for that warrant.
You don't know who got it? You don't know
I don't
whether
know
it's
who got
for,
it, no,
It's a useless number.
so how transparent is that?
It's not.
because you can go through.
They all could go to one person.
It could, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it gives a measure of checks and balances.
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't really, it's just a bucket of money.
The only way you're gonna get checks and balances is if he puts
A
the
budget
line
brief.
item report online that you can look at anytime you want to. It's the only way you're gonna see anything that's of any value.
Or we put in the agenda a quarterly budget brief.
Yeah, this
fine.
number is
That's
no
what we
different
do.
than your
We
budget
do
number at the
report.
end of the year, which is a big bucket of money.
Correct.
But you'd be able to see, like, I broke down where we're at with roads, and soon you'll hear, you know, some of my, how do we go forward, and, you know, on projects, and what do we do, and how do we spend money, because I broke those budgets down the other day.
But the other way for me, honestly, instead of wasting time, adding more things, you can easily run a report as a line item and just throw it online.
It's just a spreadsheet, they're all there.
It's just click, click, and it's done. You don't have to do anything else.
No, that's what that is.
Right, so I just start putting it up.
Yeah.
Bin 77 is broken down, you can see exactly who got what, and nobody could complain,
Correct.
theoretically.
And it's not extra work. That's what I'm saying. I don't wanna see the town manager do extra work with no value. Putting a dollar value on any of that, there's no value in that. It's a waste of time.
Priority task list.
And so, like I just said, I just went through the budget for the public works, and I had to readjust. Now, my recommendation would be we trench pave Silver's Mills and reallocate the paving, or the maintenance paving money to some of the other roads that need ditching, and culverts and grading. I talked to Chris and I talked to Scott Reynolds, and if we pave now, all we've done is the culverts, we haven't done any
Correct.
ditching.
Correct.
So it's counterproductive,
We wouldn't pay without doing the ditch.
it's counterproductive.
No, it's not gonna happen.
So if we reallocate that to other things, now I got like Scott Reynolds, he just called, I'm guessing he's all done with Flanders Hill, cause he was on there today. But what that can do is, we can put Chris over doing culverts on Gray's Road, and then we're ordering the culverts for over on French's Mills Road, so that we'll have those done. And then in the meantime, Scott will be finishing up Flanders Hill, then he'll move the Veterans Park, and then he'll grade the Veterans Park up and get that cleaned up. And then he'll move over to a couple other smaller projects that he can knock out. And then as we get caught back up, he's gonna ditch Burr Road, going forward, and then Warren and Chris will be caught up with the other stuff so that they can come back and grade.
So-
Do you have, have you had any, availability as far as trench paving?
So Chris is gonna look and see if Pike is still open. Cause he said if he's there and he's cleaning it out, he might as well just stay
Sure.
there and do the project. So he doesn't have to move equipment in and out.
Yep.
And it would save us a little bit of money that way. So if he does not, then tomorrow I'm calling for some pavers to say, can you do some trench paving for us?
I see when I came through, he was on Silver's Mills measuring today.
Yeah.
So to get an idea of how much it is.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming when we're saying trench paving, that's also gonna, all those potholes up past Jerry's,
Oh, yeah, that's a mess.
that's all part of that.
All of it.
Yeah.
He's gonna
Fill the holes.
fill in all the potholes.
Start of the bridge.
Yep, and all of that, and then, right there after your place,
Well, that's after me's Jerry's,
Yeah.
and that's where those really bad potholes are,
Yeah.
up through that section.
You're
And that-
talking trench paving, you're actually talking about paving in the sides of the road?
No, the culverts, where they did the
Culverts,
culverts, get that dirt out and get that hot topped over,
Yeah.
so no
So-
more potholes there.
It's all winter long, you're scraping the muddy gravel out of there, and it's a pain.
and then do the road right and go back, and then ditch it, grind it, and then pave it.
Well, I have a question on that. When you said do the road right. I've been living out there almost 40 years, and I've never seen the water come over the road. And after it was ditched 3 feet deep, we all of a sudden have water almost coming over the road. How the hell did that happen?
Have the culverts.
Well, we've had more rain this year
Well,
than we
yes,
have
I'll
in
give
the
you
5
that.
years put
I'll give you
together.
that.
Yeah, and all the culverts they put in are bigger than whatever was in there.
Right, but
So
even
we're
if you
moving
went
more
back-
water than there, so think about what you just said, if we didn't do that to that section of road, that would have gone over that road this
Right,
year.
it would have at the
Yep.
preset,
Yep,
but we had no proof of water ever coming over the road to begin with, that I know of.
yep,
And I've been out there a long time.
no, I agree with you.
And we raised the road up 3 feet.
Mhm.
We have extra gravel, extra money to pay people to haul gravel and level it out or something?
No, we did that because there's nothing underneath that road, there's no gravel in all of Silver's Mill,
The base is,
there's no base.
the whole thing needs to be.
Rock
So
the
you're
same.
saying it has a base now because you put all that fill in?
Yep, they put in whatever, 18 inches, I think is what that section you're talking about. I mean, lifted that a good 18
Because I ended
inches.
up down in that ditch, right just before, was it Pullen Road?
Yep,
And I had my grandkids with me, that's boys, and I was surprised as shit that I did not roll over or tip over
Mhm.
because of the depth of them ditches with no
Shoulder.
shoulder, no
So
shoulder
that-
at all. It
so-
just grabbed me and pulled me right in.
Here you go to East Sangerville Road and they paved that, there's no shoulder. So that's a whole nother.
Isn't that more dangerous than a bad road?
Yeah.
well, the other
So-
part of it is I agree with what you're saying, but it's no different than what we did on
McFeeters.
McFeeters.
Right, but
When
whether
they-
it's no different or not.
Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying though is if they met, same as they did on Silver's Mills, it's not that we don't have a shoulder, they paved the shoulder. So what we had for pavement before, to what we did now, it's wider.
I
So-
don't know as I
And that's the
agree
same
with
thing as
that.
they did up
You got
there.
measurements of that? 'Cause
Yep,
you do.
no, and that's why we actually, we
That's why we
lined,
lined it.
we lined that one because that was the issue up there. Everybody, there's no shoulder. Well, the paving company come in and told us,
You
they
pass
clearly,
people on that road every day.
yeah,
You feel that road's wide enough? Of course, you got a little Jeep, but still.
sure.
Wheelbase still is,
Yeah, it's still over what it was. It was barely, at my house, it wasn't 16 feet.
But, so going forward, what needs to happen is, if we're doing culverts, culvert needs to go in, the ditching needs to be done, and then the grading work needs to be taken care of.
And that's what we did.
Because, and then if you pave it, you gotta go back and do your shoulder. Cause then you're not paving that edge. That's not been the case. So going forward, that's how we're gonna do it, and that's why we're not gonna pave right now, because we gotta get in there to do the ditching. So we're gonna go do the other roads that need it. Flanders Hill is all washed out.
Again, because of all the rain that we had.
And it's, no, there's no ditch, because it's been pushed in. And so that ditch needs to be redone, and then it needs to be graded.
I just know, Silver's Mills is way more dangerous than it ever was.
ever was, never was like that.
I know, when I was a kid, I didn't have to wear a seatbelt on it.
Exactly. It's just absolutely ridiculous now. I mean, you have to watch when you pass a car. I don't know how it is supposedly shoulder there for the width of that road. I just don't see it.
So I'm gonna reprioritize the work. And get a bunch of these done. Like I said, Scott's gonna be done and I got them all.
Do we have any other really bad culverts around besides the ones on French's Mills that we need to worry about?
There's a couple over on, Borough and Line, I know that they need some. So that's what we're gonna do Monday is we're gonna go through, in earmark what we need to do.
I'd suggest on Silver's Mills too, you got that ledge cut by Moulton's that's,
Yeah.
when they're trench paving, that's gonna need some attention, and then the ramp, because where that's gone a year, that's pretty steep now,
Yeah.
so.
And then, winter sand and salt's all put up. Well, that's all done, so we're all ready for winter. Projected work, speaking of winter sand, salt, next year I'd like to have it up and done, by May at the latest.
We would support that.
And, going forward, and then we're gonna earmark more of the projects that need to be taken care of. I know some, Church Street, Maple Street, those are pretty rough too, so I'm gonna start programming that stuff to get done. And
Gravel roads and project work.
And then I have the director for outdoor recreation and tourism of the state. Carol Ann Willette's gonna come visit next week with me. We're gonna do some walking around and talk about, options, and she's got knowledge on grants and stuff for some outdoor recreation and tourism for us in the Parks and Rec area. And then Ann Ball from Maine Developmental Foundation. She's the senior director for downtown centers and revitalization. She's gonna have a Zoom call with me in October, and we're gonna talk about some, revitalization options and opportunities in business and economic development, so that's it for me.
The only thing, Jeff, I don't know if you remember, it was before my time, but wasn't there something through somebody through the state as far as the docks on Mannahannock? Wasn't those either state funded or some through state thing that?
Oh, yeah, they're state funded.
Do you remember?
Fish and Wildlife, I think.
Was it? Okay.
And they were the ones that, well, they weren't, but the town crew put them in, no.
Right. But, I mean, I know we used to get, that's what I was thinking, that's why I figured you would.
So that's part of Carol Ann's job is to be that liaison and go back to, if there's a pocket with inland fisheries and wildlife or conservation or youth education or access, any of that stuff, she'll take back and see and work with me on, revitalization of that area.
Great.
And next meeting is not November. I was thinking of deer season, it's October.
Come on.
Selectmen's concerns?
Nope.
Can I
Motion
ask a
to.
quick question?
Yep.
And this is my ignorance, and you stated that you guys cannot spend any town money unless it's been voted on by the townspeople?
It has to be appropriated, yeah.
It has to, so anything you guys spend is appropriate, anything that you do has to be appropriated at town meeting
Correct.
or at a special town meeting
Yep.
for you to move forward to.
Yep. Money spent this year were approved at one point, mostly all this spring. but-
Alright, that's,
Yep.
And what you don't spend goes back in and
yeah, it goes into.
you start all over
That
again.
general fund, you start over again.
Yeah, and the guy you wanna talk to for inland fisheries is Deano. Call the Augusta office.
Motion to adjourn?
Can I say something real quick before the
Sure.
meeting adjourns? Bounce back to the fire department real quick. The previous years of the boot drive, and Friends of, how was that money collected when it was the Friends of? Did it go into a separate Friends of account?
Well, this is my own opinion. and this is my opinion of a citizen of Sangerville. A lot of people donated for many years and thought they were donating to the Sangerville Fire Department. But the reality is, it did go to the Friends of, which the Friends of the Sangerville Fire Department is a private entity, no different than the Historical Society or any other nonprofit within our community. So that's where it gets clunky, and again, this is my opinion, what you guys try to do, and then the correlation, in order to keep yourself separate. You know what I'm trying to say? So like if you guys are out there and you're doing this stuff and you're using town trucks and you're doing this, people that come through, they're, oh, this is the fire department. So somehow, and that's me, we talked to Matt about this, somehow you gotta be able to figure out how do you separate yourself so that you're either one or the other.
The problem is, in my eyes, is that the only reason that the Friends of Sangerville Fire Department ever had to even be established was so that the money raised went to the fire department in one way or another.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it didn't end up there. So that was made so that they could use that money to buy stuff for the fire.
Would I be mistaken to think that the money going to the Friends of was not to benefit the Sangerville Fire Department?
I don't know.
There was never any accounting of it.
Correct.
We never knew what
And
was
it-
collected or where it was spent.
And it's the same thing, it's, if a private entity, if they wanna donate, if it's the Friends of, that doesn't mean the Friends of can go out and buy or do things and just give it to the town, it still has to be approved.
So let's say the Friends,
Problem approving the thermal imaging camera that cost over $6,000 when we purchased that through that.
That's not what we said, Chris, I'm not really sure why you're so negative about every time we say something.
if, for example, you guys, the Friends of raised $5,000 and wanted to donate it to the fire department specifically, we would take that donation request to town meeting. I guarantee you they'll take it, but they have to accept it, and then it goes to the fire department.
It doesn't go into collections, like that was stated a half hour ago?
So, like we talked to Matt, this boot drive money, what can happen to that? We get through the budgetary process. That money is there, it's a line item, and if the budget approved process works, then that money could be part of a line item for the townspeople to vote back into the fire department. But the one thing that, I'm not trying to sound negative when I do this, but we all know what the taxes are, where they're headed, between the school tax, the county tax, that's, the increase we all got this year from those two entities is just crazy. We can't keep going in that direction and think that the people in our town are gonna afford their taxes. So when you see us pushing back or trying to do things to save money, it's not because we're against the fire department, it's a huge budget. And there's nothing left in our town to try to reduce.
It's a small budget.
That's your opinion, Chris.
When you got 400,000 for roads and you got 50,000 for a fire department,
Yep.
it's a small budget.
That's your opinion. Our job is to try to look
To
for
finish your
everything-
question, just so you have full context, if that same boot drive, if you said we wanna donate $5,000 to the town, the select board can accept it and it goes right into the general fund. But if you get specific with it and say we wanna give it to the fire department, and you could say for a specific tool or a piece of equipment, then the town has to approve it. It would be the same way if we got a donation to buy gym equipment in the park. That we can't take that. It sounds, we should be able to, but we can't. So that's just law, so.
To me, it just seems crazy that one wrong Facebook post, one misworded Facebook post, a use of safety apparatus to protect the firemen during the boot drive, and the money did not go to the Friends of, it got into collections.
Well,
It seems crazy.
it's still there for the fire department to use, and when we come to the budget, it's gonna help.
But there again, if it was the Friends of, and you were gonna use it towards the fire department, it still had to be approved. That's the
Correct.
right way to do this.
So at the next annual meeting or budget meeting, you'll have a record of everything that was donated to the fire department specifically. That total amount, whether it's 10 grand, 5 grand,
100%,
whatever.
that's how it
And you'll
should be
say, this is
recorded.
what was donated to the fire department. Do you vote to give that to the fire department?
Correct.
The credit unions always, has been helpful on a lot of different projects. If they decided to write a check specifically to the fire department, we couldn't take it. We'd have to wait till town meeting.
And actually, last year we
and
did
the town
that.
would vote to accept it.
There was something the credit union donated, and that's, can't remember what it was.
Didn't the credit union just write us one this spring? I didn't see a vote on that.
They're supposed to be. That's how it's
There
supposed to be.
again, that's the proper way to do things. That's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to hinder the fire department, we're trying to make it harder for you guys. There's rules about how your budget works, how your money comes in, and how you're supposed to spend it. And that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that's the way it's supposed to be.
I think it's gonna come to a time where the taxes are gonna have to go up, and if people can't afford it, unfortunately, there's gonna have to be another town for you to live in, because it's gonna have to cost more to do what we need to do.
Oh, you're 100% right.
And
It's already
It's
happening.
not our job to, may verify that everybody lives in town can afford the taxes. We gotta fund everything appropriately, and right now, I'll tell you this isn't. We need to redo this budget.
What was that budget, our budget now is comparable to that of 2007?
Less than that.
Less than 2007? What's inflation been like since 2007?
Honestly, the last couple of years, you guys have overspent a little bit, but prior to that,
But that's
they weren't
with-
even spending what was allocated.
That's without upgrading or keeping any equipment
That's
fresh.
treading
That's
water.
paying the bills, that's paying the payroll.
Right, no, but-
lights. That's it. That's
but
not making sure the trucks are maintained, that's not making sure
Yeah,
the
there's been
heater is
several
in there.
occasions where we've bought stuff out of our own pockets for the trucks
I
because.
bought fluids for the trucks just to keep them from blowing motors because there's just no more money. That's
I
how
bought
I
water for the crew so they wouldn't be thirsty on fire call, on many occasions, because we can't find the money in the budget, because the budget's so low for the fire department.
That's
We can't
not-
afford stuff.
No, I wouldn't say that, because for many years, there was extra money left over from the fire department budget.
Well, that's what he was
Yeah,
just
man.
saying.
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
The budget
But you
in
can't say-
2007 was what our budget is now. In 2007, it cost half as much to run a department, yet they were getting the same, so in theory, you've cut the budget in half, or whatever inflation's gone up, that's how much the budget's been cut. Just because we get 50 whatever thousand this year, well, we got that 12 years ago, 15 years ago. The price of everything's gone up, so.
When a frontline engine wasn't $900,000, when one rescue tool wasn't $12,000.
Correct.
Yep.
We just had more air bottles that went out of date, and those
Yep.
are $5,000 a piece.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be, and the county hit us, what, 22% this, in 1 year, they went up.
Unfortunately, if people can't pay their taxes, then that goes through a lien process, and that's what it is.
That's not really the right way to think about how to run our town. I'm just
We
gonna, that's
can't-
not what our job is
We can't
about.
let people be unsafe because.
We're not letting, no, we're not doing that either, so,
Pushing it.
no.
100%.
It's,
Chad never
Yeah,
gave us
I-
the impression that he felt.
nothing against you, Matt.
Chad didn't wanna pick a fight because every time he said something, he
Well-
would say somebody else is gonna cover.
That's not true.
Somebody else is gonna cover this town, you
That's
guys
not
keep
what-
giving the
that's
money
not
out.
true.
If we
Doesn't
don't
even look like
anymore,
that's a
somebody else
possibility.
is covering this town.
It
That's
doesn't
not
even look
true,
like
Matt.
it's a
Well,
possibility.
it isn't now.
Yeah, well, I just think it's funny that, I mean, we can go back 3 years ago, or before Chad, we had chiefs that couldn't even fill a fire truck, and the department was gonna close, cause you couldn't get any people.
Now that we've got a healthy department with.
No, I understand that, but you need a,
The town needs
that's
to
what
help
I'm,
us out a little bit, and
that's why we'll have the budget process in the spring, and it's gonna be you guys' job to present.
Well, last year Chad presented a budget of 93,000 and we ended up with 55. That's the problem. He gave you a number that it took
75.
to operate.
I don't think you ended up with 55.
55.
We ended up with 52.
We ended up with 62, but 5,000 of that was already dedicated to fixing that truck, so that had to come out of it. So we ended up with 55.
Another 4,000 went to the previous year's budget to cover that.
Overdraft, yep.
No, it didn't.
Yes.
No, it didn't.
You guys, you took.
No.
You took.
Your overdraft
You
came
took
out of
13.
our, didn't have
You
anything to
took it
do
out of the
with,
reserve.
You took it out of the
The
reserve.
same money that came to do that truck.
that's not out of your
Took it
budget.
both out of the reserve, took it, instead of getting 63 for the budget, we got 55 with 5,000 dedicated.
No, the
to
overdraft was
truck.
approved by the town. The town took that money out
I'm
of
not
general to
talking about
cover it.
that. I'm talking about the 5,000 that was taken out of the budget, basically. You didn't give us 62, you gave us 55, because 5,000 of it was to fix the truck. So that already, it might as well be.
But that was budgeted that way.
Yeah, but that's not the way to fix that.
Okay, but we had a prior chief and that's how it was budgeted. If you don't agree with what your prior chief did, that's a different conversation.
I'm telling you what's gonna need to happen from this one. So we'll talk budget at that point, but it's what's gonna happen. You can't keep going the way it is right now. And you got nobody that's gonna cover, so what do we do?
Exactly, that is the point. What do we do?
Exactly what's gonna happen.
So.
That's why, as I asked you
Money
before.
has to be spent, has to be.
Well, it's gotta be raised first.
Correct. You're not spending anything, townspeople don't approve it.
But they also need to know, nobody in that town meeting knows what budget we came to you with. They know what you approve that goes to the vote. So nobody there knows that it was 93,000 to start with. They just know that the number that's getting brought to everybody is 55. And when they vote yes or no, it's not their job to know what it costs to run a fire department. They don't know. They're approving a number that's put in front of them. If they put 100,000 in front of them, they're gonna approve that too. They don't know what it costs to run a fire department. That's why it's our job to bring that budget to you guys. And when we say this is what it's gonna cost to run it appropriately and effectively, and that number gets cut, we're now running it, but not appropriately or effectively. So the townspeople should be able to vote on that number before it gets chopped to pieces.
That's not the budget process, so.
I'm just telling you.
That's okay, you have your opinion. That's not the process.
If they choose to spend that money, that's taxpayers' money to spend. It's not the budget committee's money to cut out. It's, if we put 100,000.
That's not how it works.
If we put 100,000 out in front of them and they don't want to appropriate that, then they're gonna vote it down. But you haven't given them that option.
That's not how it works.
So you guys can ultimately set the budget that you want and just let them agree on it after? You're not gonna let the townspeople actually set the budget that they think they need? Like, you get the first say.
That's why we have budget meetings, that whole process, for people to come in, they can voice their opinion. And at the end of the day, our job is to try to, how do we maintain a mill rate and a tax rate that our citizens can afford?
It's gotta
So,
be all built off of revenue.
correct. And how much do you take out of general fund to help offset it? Because you can't go, you could go with that theory. We could leave every line item as a budget way up here. And the other problem that you have is, and we've seen this many times at town meetings, different groups of people can get more friends than other groups of people, and they get certain things pushed through. So, in theory, you could have a mill rate that should be here, and go with the theory that let's just throw everything at the townspeople, and you could walk out of that meeting with a mill rate way the heck up here.
But also, that budget goes off of revenue, like I said, right? But in the hierarchy of this establishment, they're elected officials, right? I was appointed. Matt and I work together, right? So there's task organization, right? So then ultimately, he's your chief, he works for you, he's my SME, I listen to him, right? So you think Matt and I are probably gonna grind out some nights in this room, putting budget down? Cause that's my job, is to fight for my, employees. Now, that's just what I owe. Matt knows that if he tells me, hey, I need this, this, and this, and it's justifiable, and we go through the process to justify it, he knows that I'm gonna stand there for him and fight my way to that budget. That's just what my job is, but it's also my job to go and see where there's other money that can be allocated, that I can make the recommendation to be voted on. That's what the town manager does, right? And then comes and asks for, here's my recommendation, we need to vote, here's a vote.
We've never had a budget submitted by you. We've worked with Chad for several years. It wasn't problematic. There was some give and take, but he was pretty much satisfied. So we'll see how this year goes.
He told you you're satisfied.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't call him dishonest. But you're coming right out. So,
I'm just trying to make it very transparent where we're at, and
this, it'll all be recorded, everybody's gonna know where we're at, so, and it will be a budget committee. And a number will ultimately get recommended to the warrant. That's how it works. Go ahead. Is you, somebody you?
Jeff?
Oh,
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry I'm late, I didn't know it was at 4 o'clock, I was still.
well, it turns out we're still here, so.
4 o'clock is too damn early, right?
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah,
4 o'clock
That's the
meeting.
problem.
What, you're still here?
4 o'clock's too.
I get out of work early every time for these meetings, I don't have a problem with it.
What we need is the graces of the select board to get us on the ballot. That'd be the ballot question. We print the ballots.
Oh, so this is for the vote on
Consolidation.
consolidation of the utility district and the water district. And you need us to basically bless that process.
Yeah, because we have to have 45 days before the vote. So,
Does it has to be a,
probably in the minutes, I would say.
no, but the vote, does it have to be like a gubernatorial? or-
Yeah, we'll have to have 14 days prior to the vote, we have to have a public forum, invite the public in and get questions and answers before,
So I guess, when do you anticipate this will be voted on?
during the November election.
Okay, that's what I was getting at, yep, okay. I make a motion that we support this step of the process.
Second.
All in favor?
There you
Done.
go, you're good to go.
We're good to go.
You wanna take these with you?
You want us to sign anything, so you got anything officially, do you want a
If I need
letter?
it signed, I'll get back to you.
That's perfect.
Okay, yeah, no, as we, I mean, we've talked about this.
Yeah, this has been ongoing.
Yeah, sorry I'm late.
No, you're good, thank you.
You guys have a good one.
Great.
Motion to adjourn? Second. We are.